Okay, guys, sorry for this technical issues. And yeah, this is its part side. And let's talk about artificial intelligence again. And I want to introduce Minnie and Georgia. Yes, and please introduce yourself in short, and let's talk about trends. What is the next for the government roles and trust? Yes, please.
Great. Thank you so much, Manana, for this forum. So this is Mini Suri. I'm the Chief Customer Success Officer at Core.ai, which is a conversational AI company. We build virtual assistant platforms and products. Prior to Core, I was the COE head of COE for intelligent automation at Uber. And prior to that, I led many years at Citi, and then last was to build Citi, a conversational AI bank.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And Gregory.
Hi, I'm Gregory. I'm CTO and co-founder of Intento. Actually, we help businesses to start using cognitive AI in the end system they need it in, say, machine translation, speech recognition, image tagging, and so on. We help to integrate and choose the right vendors for different particular cases. Prior to Intento, I was the developer lead of Yandex News service, for example, and in many other startups and companies. I got PhD in artificial intelligence close to 15 years ago. So I like this field for a long time. I'm deeply respected, and I think the upcoming years will be very interesting for us.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, and first question, what is the next big thing in artificial intelligence, and what is the next generation of AI, and what is most important thing for the businesses during the COVID?
Right. So, Manana, as you said, we are in the business of building conversational AI, which means how do you converse with the machines using natural language? What we believe, no interface is the best interface. If you can talk to the machines and machines can understand, you really don't need the websites. You don't need the mobile apps, right? And I think that's the most natural way of asking a question. So that's what we are. We have a very deep platform. And this is where we see the trend in artificial intelligence, especially in the NLP space, natural language processing, where our end users can ask they frequently asked questions or can find information about their bank, like their banking information, account information, just asking a machine, basically. What is my balance? How do I transfer $200 into my account? Or what's the status of my credit card? How do I pay this bill? These are some of the questions or the interactions that we see everybody talks every single day. So we are seeing this space growing very quickly. We see this market growing very quickly. The trend is how do we customize, personalize this experience so that if let's say Mini Suri logs into a banking site, it should know everything about me and then present me based on what I'm interested. So we are looking now as a trend where our virtual assistant bots become more intuitive. They understand the logged in user much better and be able to present the right kind of information. And also what we see the trend is how these chatbots or conversational experience can go omni-channel, which means if I start my interaction, let's say through a website, I have a virtual assistant, and let's say I have to pick up my child, and now I'm in my car, I have my virtual assistant that I can talk to, but it's the same experience. My conversation continues from my home to my car to anywhere else. I don't have to have an interruption in my conversation. So this continuity of conversation is huge, right? I can dial in or I can log in from any channel, from my mobile, my phone, for Google Assistant, from Alexa. I'm basically have the same virtual assistant who knows, hey, Minnie, you're back. and we chat. That's how you and I would chat, right? If we leave a
Yeah,
conversation.
but the main question, it's all about privacy and trust, because it's huge opportunities for the hackers actually. What do you
Right. So,
think?
yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. Privacy and trust is very important. And that's why the conversation that you have, you have to make sure who you're talking to. Number one, do I be identified as the right user? That's number one. Second is all my conversations, are they encrypted? At rest, and then also when it is stored. Second, and the third point is if I have something which is a personal identifiable data, which is PI data, I need to make sure that's redacted or removed so that it's not there and my privacy is protected. So all those things are very important that we make sure that is taken care and is continued to be put a lot of focus on.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's just some. And the other thing that what I want to bring is how do we bring this technology in the hand of the end users? Now, our business users are not data scientists, right? We
Mhm.
want to make sure they're able to understand the bots and they're able to build the bot. So the thing is, we are building those kind of platforms or those user interfaces that gives them the tool where they build the bots very easily because this is a conversation. A business user should be able to build a conversational flow, right? And then comes the ITPs where they go and connect the backend, as simple as that. Now, how do I train the bot? My business users should be able to train the bot with the utterances so that the bot understands those utterances and get trained. So we need the right train data, the test data, as well as what is going to be our, train data and the test data. So we
Mhm.
need to really make it so simple and easy
Yeah,
where
it's really
it
important.
could be in the hands of normal business or common users, right? They should be able to talk to the bot. So that's where
Oh,
we see the trend.
okay. And Gregory, it's same question. What do you think? What is the next big technology, or maybe next big thing
Mhm.
in artificial intelligence? And maybe it should be next generation. It's because it's COVID time. Yeah, and maybe and share with us what's going on. They trust and user, it's like a friendly user something in artificial intelligence and artificial systems.
Yeah, actually, I have several answers to this question. From the industry point of view, I personally expect that biology and medicine will be one of the most important applications of AI, and another very important application will be education. For me, these two fields are the fields where application of some clever technologies will significantly improve the user experience, quality of life, and all the other things. And I want the changes in these industries. The problem, these both industries are very conservative, especially medicine. But I believe and I want to see changes here. That's the
Interesting. And what kind of industries really friendly for the artificial intelligence? Not like the conservative, like the medical and healthcare and robotics for the healthcare,
Mhm.
and plus for the tech and gaming maybe. What do you think?
I actually think
Or media, maybe media like a fake news. What do you think?
well, actually, a lot of common businesses around us are pretty open for AI. The only problem, um, several years ago, it was hard for them to start using AI because, again, several years ago, in order to start using AI, they have to gather a team of talented
Mhm.
experts. They have to gather data to train models, and they had to build infrastructure to train and deploy and use these models. That was prohibitive for most companies. For example, a small shop or small any small, even medium company cannot start using this because there were huge competition for the talent, so you just have no people to start using it. And second thing, you had no money to invest in these pretty expensive things. And in several
And
years.
what is your prediction for the next, beyond like the next 15 years?
Oh, 15 is too much. It's hard to predict.
Okay, like a 5.
Yeah. 5, I think 5 is the maximum we can predict something. I personally expect several things will happen. First, the barriers to entry in this field will become even lower, and we'll see a lot of user and business friendly tools with AI, and in many places, AI will be integrated in those exact places where it is really needed. So the friction become significantly smaller here. That's one thing. Another thing, I'll expect and I want to see end users empowered significantly more than now, and I expect to see more edge intelligence and user devices that don't need cloud in order to just work.
Yeah.
And we'll see much more issues regarding privacy, ethics, and so on. And again, we'll have to do something with it, and protected end user devices partially solve this, but not completely. And one more important thing, I'm more than certain that we'll see much more malicious use of AI in upcoming years, because it's pretty powerful technology and everyone wants to use it, even some black hats. So we'll see automated call centers for fraud. We'll see more clever spam. We'll see a lot of cases of identity theft and so on and so on. We'll see much more clever deepfakes. I believe in 3 years, deepfakes will be so real that we
it's new opportunities for the scammers and fraud.
Yeah. As a typical person, I think will cannot distinct the real image or video from artificial one in just maybe 2 years. The technology advances very, very fast here.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, and how we can to manage these risks of AI? What do you think? On the technology side, for example.
That's actually a hard question, because no single technology can mitigate this risk, and solution should be complex, and we definitely need some technological solutions. We need some legal solutions or procedural solutions, and it should be a system approach here. No single option will solve everything. So it's hard to predict where will we evolve here.
So Manana, just to add here, like when we went cloud, right? When the cloud was introduced, obviously there were a lot of risks. At the same time,
this is actually like its main problem.
Right. As the AI is evolving, we are understanding the risks, the biases, how the models have to be more transparent, more legal scrutiny is happening. People want to know how you train the model, what the data is. So there's a lot of introspection. It's not becoming a black box, it's becoming an open box. Basically, now more and more, as Gregory was also mentioned, there is going to be a lot of visibility, right? So that is one angle. Basically, nothing creeps into the model if we don't know what is going in, right? So that transparency has to come. Second is from the technology perspective, like hackers. Are the bots getting spammed? Basically, like how you get those websites get spammed, the bots can also get spammed. So what are kind of controls you're building, right? Who are the people asking those questions? Are we validating them? Are we making sure it's the right people getting in? Are we doing biometrics authentication? Like we have to build those controls to really protect and make sure the right identity, right people are getting into those. And it's going to be a challenge. And I'm sure there are people who are always two steps ahead of us. And we have to rise to that challenge. And we have to build those kind of controls in our conversational AI or maybe other AI tools to sort of mitigate those risks. And I know it's a little hard to predict what kind of risk can come, but I think what I see, the way the industry is, we are looking at those risks. We are trying to mitigate. We have sort of software. We are thinking through those kind of challenges with some experience that we've seen with the other technology. How do we take, but how do we think differently? So this is obviously the other side, that we all have to be very, very careful as we roll out, as we progress with the AI, and as we really make advancement in AI.
Interesting. And I have a question about what are the most critical roadblocks in scaling AI, and how we can overcome these cases. And like the main question, because actually more than 80% of the new startups, they come in with artificial intelligence. I'm not sure what is really great cases. Maybe sometimes it's tricky, but what do you think? The main question about scalability.
Yeah, I mean, I can start, and I'm sure, Gregory, you'll have tons to add. But I'll tell you what we have seen, and so what I'm talking is one facet of AI, right? I'm not talking entire AI, because AI itself is very broad. It's solving a lot of problems. We've talked from computer vision to NLP to others, right? But let's say I'm talking about NLP. Now, this was a challenge in 2017. Market was very young. Market is getting now warmed up to it, and as COVID or pandemic has actually sort of accelerated. So more and more people are now getting aware of what AI and specifically I'm talking about chatbot. It has changed the human behavior. Where I see the challenge, especially people who are in this technology, building the technology, as I said, how we make the technology more in the hand of our users. So the users can very easily now train the bot, right? How do we explain them to really think this technology as an art, not a science? That's what I say. Because in this case, it's a human language, but to train the bot, you have to use the right way to train the bot. And then the other part of the challenges are NLP engines, the deep neural network models that we are building. They are getting sophisticated day by day. But then again, we are not there to understand every human interaction. I would say we are on the lower strata of human interaction, where we can ask simple questions the bot can understand. We are getting sophisticated with multi-turns, meaning I started a conversation, I moved to the second conversation, I moved to the third conversation, and the bot can remind me, oh, well, you asked me that question too. So we're getting there, but we have a path forward, right? So roadblocks here is obviously our technology, how fast we move, how fast we grow. We know we can compute. We have GPUs, CPUs, we can compute, we can build these large models. And the second roadblock I see obviously is the data. Data is gold. The more the data, the more we can have these very good models and those kind of things. So as the roadblocks are coming, we are also finding a path forward. So that's where we are seeing from our perspective. And as working a lot with the end user, with the enterprises which I work with directly, I think it's just the mindset, just the training, how to think about this whole conversational space. That's where I see as a challenge, and that's where we see where the training needs to happen.
And same question, Gregory.
Yeah, I see several roadblocks here. One, I think most important, is conceptual one. Current AI solutions are pretty narrow solutions, and they are good in their narrow niche, but step away from the niche and they fail. And they fail in different ways. They cannot explain their results. They cannot reason with data they have. And in this way, they're pretty far from human level intelligence, but we constantly see overselling here. Many companies claim that they solve intelligence, they emulate the brain and something like this. They promise that their solutions is kind of human-like, but that's not true. And in order for this to come, we have to do some, I think, unknown for now some advances. We need some new ideas, maybe some new solutions to come to this general intelligence. That's one thing. So current AI is still pretty brittle in many ways. That's important. Plus, we have some technological roadblocks. For example, we have good hardware right now, but it's still hard to train large models. Only several companies in the world can afford it. Google, OpenAI, maybe a few others, company Microsoft, but for many others, researchers or businesses, it's impossible to invest $1 million just to train one model. It's prohibitive. So we need more hardware, we need more available infrastructure, we need new kind of models, new kind of hardware, because the current deep learning revolution is not the only way to AI. There are a lot of other ways, forgotten for now, but maybe they overcome these limitations of current deep learning revolution. So technological issues is still a problem. And I agree with Mini, data is another problem. It's hard to get a data for many cases. Not every company can afford this as well. Or in some cases, it's just naturally hard to get data. For example, in medicine, you cannot just train on real patients because it could cost life them. So it's hard to get the data. Plus, you have a lot of relations in these fields. So again, for many cases, maybe you already have a good neural network architectures hardware, but without data you cannot do anything here. That's a roadblock. And we have a lot of separation in the world right now. We have data locality laws. We have tensions between United States, China, Russia, and other states. That's a problem as well. As a humanity, we become separated, and we potentially can fall into another kind of race, arm race, or something like this. I don't want this to happen, but we have such a risk, and that's a problem as well.
And what is the main issues on the regulatory framework for the, I don't know, for the US market, for the Russia, for the China? What do you think?
I think there are a lot of questions. One of them is we actually don't know what to expect from these technologies. We just started to use them several years ago, so we have not some real cases and real understanding what lead us. So we just not ready for many cases. And our legal system in many cases is pretty old school. There are no entities like not human subjects and so on. So robot car, for example, have no agency. So if a robot car hits someone, who is responsible for it? Right now, no legal framework, I think, easily resolve this case. So we have to find good ways, good legal frameworks to understand, to provide advice in what should we do with these cases. And we know this case will happen. I think it's hard, again, for humanity in general to adopt for this new reality. We have clever things. Sometimes they not really clever, but they act in real world and become something, and we just don't know what to do with it. takes time. We have to adopt, we have to investigate, we have to explore these areas.
Okay, and some question for the Mini. What do you think?
From the regulatory purposes, some of the challenges that we see is obviously the data privacy between the countries, right? That is number one, right? So you cannot build a bot, let's say in the US, and that will be used in China or Russia, or you have to have in-country presence, right? That is number one.
Yeah, this is like it's a local problem, but plus it's in general and global too.
Global too, yeah. And that we see all the time, that we work with different customers where we have to have sort of like a siloed. So definitely that also affects the scalability, right? I mean, you could have one
Yeah.
bot who can speak, can understand more, or could be multilingual bot, right? Whereas now
Mm-hmm.
you have so regulatory parts just plays in GDPR and others. The other is obviously, the challenges when it comes to the localization, local country regulations, right? And we see there are quite a few challenge in how the bot communicates to the customer. There are certain languages, there are certain things, nuances that you have to have those legal reviews done, because every conversation is a representation of that company or that customer. How the bot is representing, it's a virtual agent, it's a virtual assistant, which means it's representing a brand. So now the regulatory part comes is how the brand should really be presented. So for example, if it is a banking bot, it has to use certain kind of professional language versus somebody, if it is like a site on an eBay site or some kind of site where you can go, or e-commerce site, the bot can be a little bit more relaxed. So and also what kind of handover, what kind of in some of the companies that we see, the regulation is there has to be some kind of handover. If the bot cannot understand, has to understand the sentiment of the customer, right, or the user, and then be able to hand over to an agent, right, where there's a seamless handover has to happen. So we see regulatory implications as you're building the bots. We see regulatory implementation, how the bot is presented and how is bot hosted. So these are some of the challenges that we see, that I think we are trying to get, or at least understand, as we go region to region, country to country, to be very specific about their local regulations. And we try to work with their local legal compliance teams to really see how the bot can be built using those kind of the regulations that they have or get presented, so that it's part of their implementation.
Interesting. And what are the real world solutions to in barriers in the finance industry, and plus healthcare? What's going on with customer journey and data analysis? What do you think?
I mean, health. So I would say financial services were usually, they're the front runners, and they've been the front runners for this whole conversational AI front. A lot of these, and they've recognized that to be able to engage their customers deeper and more, they would need this kind of AI experience. So I would say they are usually, healthcare companies are a little late in the game, but the front runners obviously are these banking industries. And we've seen some really good experiences. They also struggled. I'm not saying this journey was not easy. They've struggled, but things are sort of, they are trying to understand how they can position themselves with this whole conversational AI part, because without this, with this interface, it allows them to personalize, allow them to be a cognitive search, allows them to do so many things that you would need, would basically take you away from sort of like managing and building your websites and your mobile applications, whereas it takes that interface into one virtual bot. Now that bot can, as I said, I was explaining earlier, can now talk in any different means and modes. It can be through various channels, different languages. So you build once, you're reusing the bot. How powerful is that? So the other problem is the bot can pull from the back end all your banking systems, your different applications. So if you log in and it knows it's Manana was joined in, Manana, you have these, your assets are these. This is the mortgage. This is the rewards that you have. I mean, I can present everything which is all personalized to you, right? And the other thing is you're very comfortable because you don't need any instructions here, right? You can then ask the bot how you want the answers to be asked to the bot, and that's where makes you, the power goes in your hand. So what we are doing, we feel it's the power shift is now with the customer, and they feel good about it. So if they are happy, they're engaged, they can ask three more questions from the bot. It takes away the time to actually make a call to an agent, right? And that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to make it much seamless, frictionless, and easy to use in an interactive fashion. So definitely financial services are leading. They are doing a lot of work. We see manufacturing, we do CPG companies, e-commerce companies. We see there's a lot of scope there. We also see internal employee-based productivity. Whereas, as I was mentioning, IT help desk, I'm locked out of my computer. I don't know what to do. Do I call? If I have a bot on my mobile phone, I can just talk to my bot, and bot can say, "Hey, Minnie, you got this temporary password. Now log in." Or I am locked out of my system. So it's a very powerful use case. My HR benefits. Do I call the HR generalist for every little thing? I don't need to. We have these complex policy documents. If the bot can be ingested, all these Q&A can be ingested to the bot, I can very easily ask, what's my policy if I work in a company? Can I spend do I have the ability to spend on this particular lunch or can I travel to, let's say, US? What's my allowance? So there are so many questions that you want an answer. This is the bot. It's 24/7, never takes rest. You have the access to your information, and you reduce the time. With this, I'm able to give my end users that time that they would need to call someone. So isn't that powerful? So these are the things that we think from our perspective, why this technology is becoming more, and in different ways is becoming more and more useful. As Gregory was mentioned, healthcare is also now, they've woken up and they realize that this is important for us, because right now the patients are having problem. They can't get to the data, to the information which they need to have, because it's their data, right? So there is a lot of movement, and that we see even in healthcare, and which is very good sign, because healthcare is now really seriously acting and looking into it, and there's a lot of places where they can streamline the whole experience.
That's actually interesting. You mentioned finance, and I believe finance was among the front runners for a long time, because we know that bots perform trading for a long time, and they are faster than people. They have shorter connections to the service and so on. So people cannot compete with bots in microseconds interval. So it's finance already use for these technologies for a long time, and actually every industry that understands where the money is and how AI or other clever algorithms can help optimize process, or and so every company see it and want to use it. In case of cognitive services, we see that a lot of companies want to process more data, say perform machine translation, image recognition, and so on. Before they used people for this, but that's pretty expensive, and you cannot translate a lot of data with people. Just you don't have so much translators to do this in real time. And now you have really good services like Google, DeepL, Yandex, and so on, and they can translate gigabytes of text very, very fast. And that's kind of enabling technology for many cases. Right now, you can process, mine your terabytes of data and find something useful there. And just 5 or 10 years ago, you cannot do this at all, because in order to use people here, you had to obtain so large budgets that it's totally impossible. That's a good thing. And for other real world cases, I'd expect we'll see a lot of problems regarding transparency and understanding how does this model perform. And that's a double-edged sword. From one point of view, I agree that it's good to understand how does the model work, but from the other point of view, I believe that we cannot understand the behavior of the model that has 100 billion parameters. Just impossible. You have to kind of explain this behavior, but that will be not the real understanding, and that explanation can have its own biases, incorrectness, and so on. So we have to live somehow in this world, and I actually believe that human baseline is not a really good baseline here, because we actually cannot understand and explain a lot of human behaviors here. People can rationalize and explain something to you, but in many cases that will be not a real explanation. And say David Kahneman wrote a lot of good cases on how people behave irrationally, and that's another problem. We somehow assume that people are 100% transparent and explainable, but that's completely not true. A lot of doctors cannot explain you why they decided that this was the particular illness or particular type of cancer or something like this. So intuition and some hidden knowledge, but it's really far from real explanation here. And I don't expect we will get a good explanation from many large or upcoming AIs. Even GPT-3, it's pretty big model, and you cannot explain. I don't believe you can explain this model. It's too large to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
I totally agree. Okay, guys, and last question. You'd like a special advice to the startups who should survive during the COVID, and like the special advice for the investors who wanna actually invest in AI technology startups.
Right. So
I know this isn't so complicated. I know.
So my advice is for the new startups. It's very challenging time. I know it's very hard, but I must say that we are also connected through Zooms and the others and these forums. There is a lot happening. There is a lot of vibrancy there. I think if you're looking into AI, conversational AI space, obviously this space is really expanding quite a bit. You need to find your niche. You really need to find your market. There are a lot of people doing the same thing. Somebody will eventually take over or will win, but I would say please be careful and also see what your niche is. What problem are you solving? And also, is that problem unique? Right? Because that's important. And there are a lot of problems we can solve through AI. But as Gregory was saying, there is a lot which is going on. These models are complex. There is a cost implicit. It's not easy to build something out of the box and not incur the cost. Obviously, it is getting better. But my advice would be just pick your market, pick your niche, and then go for it. And then for the investors, obviously, I think please be open, because there's a lot of these small players. They are the ones who are disrupting the market. There are always big people, always big players, but I would say these small players are the ones who disrupt, and they come up with something which is unique, which is like what the big players may not have thought about. So be open, give chance to these small players. That's what I would say with the investors.
Thank you so much, and Gregory.
I totally agree with openness. That's my advice to startups: be open-minded, and I said before that there are a lot of technical problems with current AI, but having said this, that I'd add that I think right now there are no or not so much lack of technology. There are more lack of imagination. Actually, a lot of things can be done if you imagine it. Technology allows a lot of different cases we just unaware of. So know the technology, investigate it, try to understand what's possible, and then try to combine it into something useful. I like the deepfake example because first deepfake, when it emerged, I think 2 years ago, was built on pretty old technology. You could build the same deepfake 10 years before it because all the things like autoencoders or convolutional networks were already there. But somehow, just 10 years later, someone understood that, wow, you can train a model that swap faces. Why no one understood it before? It's unclear. You had hardware, you had data, you had neural network architectures, but no one had imagination to understand it. So that's important. Be open and try to combine different things that are already around you. And for investors, it's hard to say something new. Just be open as well. Again, that's a pretty dynamic field. So, and it will change a lot of aspects of our lives. So be open. Try to understand how things will change. I know it's hard to understand, but openness, I think, is the key here.
Okay, guys, thank you for this time and have a good weekend. See you
thank you, Manana.
later.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you, Greg. It was great meeting all of you.
Yes, guys. And have a good luck with your projects.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.